What's up guys, Chris here with a new manga review series. And for those of you who do not know, Twin Star Exorcists is a freaking great manga. I made a video about it a long time ago at the beginning of the new year, and believe it or not, that video is doing incredibly well. The video was why you should read Twin Star Exorcists, and it is over 4K views. And so I decided, now that Blue Exorcist is on break for literally an entire year till May of 2022, I figured to fill up that slot, I'd start doing Twin Star Exorcists. I was originally going to do Twin Star Exorcists instead of Blue Exorcist, just due to the fact that I had recently finished Twin Star Exorcist before Blue Exorcist. That is a lot of Exorcists in one sentence. But then I decided Twin Stars was entering its final arc, and there's no indication of when Blue Exorcist was going to end. So I was like, you know what, I'll do Blue Exorcist. I do kind of enjoy Blue Exorcist a bit more at the moment, so I'll do Blue Exorcist. And those videos were doing very well. Plus, it also had to do that the Blue Exorcist video even now has more views than Twin Stars. But the fact of the matter is, I liked both series equally. Now that Blue Exorcist is out of the picture at the moment, I will be doing videos on Twin Star Exorcists. But this month, for the month of September, we got two chapters this month, and we're still getting another chapter next month. So this is honestly freaking insane. But yeah, Twin Star Exorcist is currently, according to the author, in its final arc, and it has been epic so far. Brief summary: the Kagare and Basuras have managed to infiltrate Tsujimikado Island, opening up a portal between Magano and Earth, and have begun a full-on invasion with Kagare that seemingly can't completely die unless by someone incredibly strong. We're also getting matchups between Basuras and the members of the 12 Guardians. We're getting backstories to characters that we didn't get backstories to originally, and making me like them a lot more. And we got the returns of favorite Basura Kamui, and even a bunch of Basura that were actually characters from the anime when they went anime original. Now, say what you will about the anime, I didn't enjoy everything after we reached like the time skip, but it did have some really cool Basura designs. I didn't really enjoy the anime all too much, but the manga is pretty much superior. But I'm liking how they're repurposing a lot of the Basura back from the anime, and it's very clear that the mangaka was the one that designed those Basura, fully intending to bring them into the story at this point. So I just find that very cool, and a lot of them have the exact same abilities as in the anime. So if you watch the anime, you'll have some insight on what these characters can potentially do. Whether or not they can do everything exactly is still up in the air. But I'm liking all the new Basura designs, as well as the fights and backstories and interactions between all of the different 12 Guardians. But now we get into seemingly the midway point of the arc. The Twin Stars are battling against the Basuras. Rokuro is having a rematch with Kamui, and it's not going too well as Rokuro cannot access the power of the Great Yang without losing himself, so he's basically fighting on a massive handicap. Meanwhile, Benio is fighting off against another who is trying to get her to use the power of the Great Yin, her true Kagare powers, and yeah, that is freaking insane. If you like me doing Twin Star Exorcist videos, I might do more in the future outside of the monthly chapter reviews. I am planning to do Blue Exorcist videos at some point that pertain to either explaining characters or just going over some of my favorite moments of Blue Exorcist. I might do the same thing for Twin Stars at some point, as well as going over what the anime skipped over and why the manga has been doing a really great job, especially with the character arcs of the main two. But yeah, without further ado, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to show how much you like me doing these videos. The more support these videos will get, the more I will be, well, motivated to do them, and the more often I'll get these videos out. Don't forget to also check out my Patreon and Ko-fi, links in the description below, if you want to help tip me or become a Patreon member for benefits, as well as helping me get these videos out a lot sooner to help with the editing process as well. And without further ado, let's get into one of the two chapters we will be discussing in this video, as I feel like it'd be better to discuss both in one video, so this is going to be a bit longer than the usual chapter reviews. So, bear with me. Chapter 97, Earthly Tremors. And this chapter begins with Benio on the ground in severe pain as the Basra that she is fighting is incredibly powerful. As this Basra then asks her why she's not using the power of the great yin within her, she could easily overpower and defeat him. But is then questioning that she wants to live with the great yang as a human, and that it makes no sense. Benio says that she doesn't need a Kagari like him to understand how she feels, as she just states the contradiction. Why would it be odd? After all, she is in fact a Kagari herself, due to the fact that the great yin is always a Kagari. As the Basra then states, what's the point of dying right here? Even if turning into the great yin drives all of the Basra away and leads to the two of them getting separated, as long as she's alive, there's still a way for the two of them to be together, even though it's not really stated how they could potentially stay together. For those of you who don't remember, Benio used a spell to keep her in human form, but the next time, if she would ever to release it, she would not be able to return to human form and cannot stay in the human world, and would have to retreat to Magano. And I like how this sponsor is just straight up telling Benio the contradiction of her rejecting the other Kagare and wanting to remain human, because can't they love each other if one is a human and the other is a Kagare? And that she is truly small-mindedness, and she is full with small-mindedness, and that's why humans are weak. As this Basra then chants a spell locking Benio in a box to try and keep her from interfering with this Basra's battle against Rokuro. She resolves that this Basra won't be able to defeat Rokuro, but this Basra then just states that it's his duty to end him. As we then flash to where his last appearance was, him facing off against Rokuro, as the two of them then exchange blows in a really nice 2-page spread, but it also has a bunch of reaction panels mixed in, and I don't fully know how to feel about it, as it does feel a bit cluttered with like 3 different reaction shots, basically dividing the actual action of this panel. Nonetheless, it is honestly not bad, as we do get a close-up on the fist on Rokuro's fist that was caught by this Basra, as seemingly an enchantment is on his arm, as then he states that he has won, and then punches Rokuro straight up into the air through his gut, as he is now flung with immense pain. As Rokuro, he literally looks like half dead in this one panel, then is told by the Basra that the spell he used converts yang energy to yin energy in order to repel the attack. But then we see that this Basra couldn't handle the mass amounts of yang energy, and his body is straight up even more mangled than Rokuro, and is even more basically on the brink of death. And he then just states that the stronger their his opponent's spiritual power, the stronger his defense. But still, his body could not withstand the great yang spiritual power. And then Rokuro is wondering if he just planned to sacrifice himself from the start. He then coughs off blood in massive pain, trying to get himself to concentrate so that he can use his powers to heal himself. As the Basra then ends up stating that Rokuro has grown a lot more handsome than he had expected. Now, this is something weird to say, because for all Rokuro knows, he doesn't know this character. As then he just states a lot of personal stuff, like his hair is fancier, his face hasn't changed much, and Rokuro is even wondering, you're talking as if you know me. As his Basra just states, you don't remember me? You don't remember. And that I'm the reason you're still alive, you know. And then we get the name reveal is Sutara. But you don't really care, do you? And Rokuro seems to get, basically, as his Basra is reaching towards Rokuro, he seems to have realized something, only for this Basra to just pat his head, states that his teeth are still crooked, and if Asuha finds out, and is wondering what Asuma would do about this, as this Basra just straight up falls to the ground, dead, as Rokuro is wondering who was this guy. As with this character's death, as with this Basra's death, with Sutara's death, Benio's seal has been removed, and now she makes her way to Rokuro. Now, right off the bat, somehow this Kagare knows Rokuro and states names that I honestly was curious about when he stated it. I went back and I was thinking of the dorm incident when Rokuro was a child, when Yuto basically tried turning everyone into Kagare, and the names don't match what Tsutara was stating. Not Tsutara, not Asuho. But for all we know, this could refer to a past life of the Great Yang. For all we know, but it's neither here or there at the moment. We still have much more to talk about. So, with Tsutara dead, the two Kagare at the moment, Momochi and Chiwa, lunge straight to Rokuro to try and kill him, since he's weakened at the moment. But with a surprise, Kamui shows up and blocks their attack. And he thinks, "You're going to kill him? The Twin Stars are my prey. Don't think about stealing him." As Rokuro was asking why Kamui would bother protecting him, he just states a very obvious thing. If he died, Benio would pout. As it is basically revealed a couple of chapters ago that Kamui actually does have feelings for Benio now. So, yeah. A whole big thing. So now he's going to fight off against Chichiwa and Momoji in Rokuro's place. But now we skip over to underneath Exorcist headquarters, where Yuto's body is being held. And it seems to, over the last couple of years, have been regenerating, being healed. As we then get someone at this door, at this prison, and one of the 12 Guardians managing to survive the attack on headquarters shows up, stating that the real reason for this pillage of the battle was this. And that Sakanashi, the one who instigated this whole thing, is here, most likely for Yuto. And the 12 Guardian Arata is here as well. And that he's following Arima's orders, and he's just glad that this Basra has remembered him, and that Arimi has warned him that Sakanashi would see to it that Yuto was retrieved one day. Although Arima didn't imagine that Sakanashi would personally handle the matter. So it just goes to show how much of grave importance Yuto's body is, as it is stated that this is the first time the Great Yin had become twins. So Yuto has some of Benio's Great Yin power, and Yuto can be used to create the full awakening of the Great Yin. And everything that's been going on at this moment has just been a huge plan, a diversion with the new Basra, so that Sakanashi can get Yuto's body. They were all red herrings. But Sakanashi states that it's not quite that. That the Basra let their lower instincts take over and lose sight of their mission, and that they're lower than apes. And that's why Arata is standing here in front of him, regardless of the annihilation. And now the annihilation of humanity is the collective goal of the Kagare, so the end result will be the same regardless, as Sakanashi summons a bunch of these new Kagare out of nowhere, seemingly to attack Arata. As he then just states that now that he knows why he's here, Arata cannot interfere. As we then get a brief flashback to a 12 Guardians meeting, as it is stated that Yuto's body, whether alive or dead, is necessary for the full awakening of Benio as the Great Yin, and that Yuto contains the spell created by Domon Ashia. If his body were to fall into the clutches of the Kagare, the birth of the paralyzed child would be pushed back another 100 years. But anything's better than the Kagare gaining control of their world. And now Arata has resolved himself to destroy Yuto's body right here, right now. But then his arm all of a sudden gets mangled and torn up out of nowhere, seemingly to have been Sakanashi's doing. And he's now on the floor, writhing in agony. Sakanashi just states that the Exorcists are too eager to embrace their deaths and just really want to learn how to enjoy their lives more. Sakanashi then starts saying a spell as a giant Kagare appears from a portal, presumably to Magano, and then swallows up the prison that Yuto's body is being kept alive in. And then now Sakanashi wants a message to the Great Yang, to Rokuro, to come to the abyss if he wishes to stop him, as he then disappears. But now Sakanashi in the overworld now states that the negative emotions that are around are very strong and very pleasurable. The air is filled with misery, bitterness, and anger, and the conditions have been set for this new giant spell that he is currently working on. And now, over the corpses of these dead exorcists, we then get to see a black smoke, presumably yin energy, rising from among them and heading into the air, opening up these new portals. And multiple portals are opening up all over Tsujimikado Island, seemingly absorbing the dead right now and being used as fuel for this new spell. As now the 12 Guardians are now wondering what's going on, and that it's no ordinary curse. As now Sakanashi opens the great, now states the spell, the great open gate of the mouth of hell. As now these giant Kigari tower monsters appear straight out of the ground, and this is terrifying. They all come up. This is something straight out of like a nightmare, like Eldritch horror nightmare. As it comes down onto the ground and begins to destroy and devour everything in its path. Everything is even the 12 Guardians are trying to get away from it. But the interesting thing is that the Basuras around are curious of what's going on, and that Sakanashi didn't warn them about this. Possibly, I don't know why. Possibly because Sakanashi viewed these Basura as disposable. But in the smoke, we have the snake 12 Guardian, Tatara, in his full snake-like appearance, ready to take down these two Basura. And as we know from the last time the Basura tried to invade, Tatara is freaking terrifying. But yeah, we then see all the different perspectives of what's going on, and now we have the battles of the Basuras still going on against the 12 Guardians, and that they shouldn't let their attention sway. We then cut back to the battle with Sakura and Shizuru against Gabura, as these things now pop out of the ground and are starting to cause chaos. And in much shock, Sakura is literally in shock of what's going on right now. And then she looks over at the man trying to protect his child from Gabura last time, as while he's barely clinging to life. His last words, he asks Sakura to tell his son, and his last words were to tell him sorry that he wasn't able to protect them. This steals Sakura to try and fight again. But then we see Gabura on the ground, still writhing in agony seemingly, and wondering what's going on with him, as yin energy is just pouring right out of him and is telling everyone around him to just get away from him and disappear. As when Sakura gets hit with this mass amount of energy, she gets a vision of a child and their mother, and some images of tragedy. As chapter 97 ends with Sakura wondering what she just saw. We now go on to chapter 98, chaptered wishing you the saddest happiness in the world. And this chapter starts off with the members of the Exorcists of Rokuro's house off the island wondering what's going on. They see everything that's going on, and they're resolving themselves to not go. And they're just putting their faith in Rokuro and Benio, as they will surely come to the rescue and save everybody. We then get some brief shots of these eldritch horror type creatures going around the island, killing as many people as possible, as the rest of the 12 Guardians are not just trying to save people, but also fighting off all of the Basra at the exact same time, with these battles going on at the exact same moment, with characters seemingly dying, and yeah, it's just mass death. Just when I thought this arc wouldn't get more sad and brutal, it does. And Benio at the top of a mountain is looking at these things tearing apart the island. She sees Rokuro desperately trying to stop them, as she just has a melancholy and sad look on her face, as we can all predict what she's probably going to end up doing. Sakura begins to regain her composure, but is wondering what she just witnessed, and if those are actually Gabura's memories embedded in him. But then is questioning that this couldn't possibly be, as we all know, he is a Basra, a Kagari, a being created by negative emotions. Now this brings up a theory I actually had back with the original Twin Star Exorcist when I was reading the anime, before, anime only stuff. I was wondering if they're going to go the route of the Kagari, the Basra, that have gained personalities and egos, might actually be the reincarnations of people that have experienced, that have died with an immense amount of negative emotions. That could be why Gabra has these sealed memories in him. So that could be the case. Gabra is a reincarnation of all this character's bitter, negative emotions. But we don't have much time to dwell on this, as Gabra is about to attack Sakura, but Chizuru manages to save her at the last possible moment, and their squad is now there to try and back her up. Now they're all wondering what's going on with Gabra, but they steel themselves to try and exercise him right here, right now. Chizuru states that she has to focus on the battle right here, right now, to avenge everyone that died at the hands of Gabra. So now they're activating Binding Battleground so that they can fight again, so that she can take down Gabra once and for all. They charge Gabra and exchange a bunch of blows. Gabra is not thinking, he is just fully feral at this moment, so he is just throwing punch after punch without any real regard for what's going on around him, even if he managed to get hit a lot. But still, regardless of how weakened he's getting at the moment, he still has an immense amount of spiritual power to keep fighting. But now, Hibari, one of the other 12 Guardians, shows up, seemingly finishing his fight. Since he basically finished his fight, is now on the scene, ready to help them. Everyone present chants the spell and creates the Binding Battleground, with Sakura fully intending to kill Gabra right here, right now. She cannot focus on what she just saw in her mind. Gabra is her nemesis. The Kagari are the enemies, and she has to destroy them all before they destroy all of them. And that is just how it is. As she is remembering the people in her life that died because of Gabra. And now with the spell complete, she then activates her heavenly enchantment and begins to beat the crap out of Gabra with an immense amount of combos and punches, a flurry of hits. And this is honestly incredibly insane, because now Gabra is, compared to how he was pre-time skip, he is 100% being beaten down fully. And he's taking an immense amount of blows and could end up actually die right here. And through this whole thing, she is trying to resolve herself to take down Gabra, as she just keeps on stating what she has to do. Kill, slay, avenge, slaughter, destroy, fire, bludgeon, etc., etc. More or less as if she's trying to convince herself, with Chizuru basically cheering her on in the background. Now, normally, a character doesn't really do this or think this because it's common sense to them to fight an enemy like this, that they have to win. But with what you just saw, she has to think these things and say these things in order to fully commit to doing it, so she wouldn't really hesitate anymore. And it just straight up a bunch of action panels with Sakura just punching and kicking Gabra with a whole bunch of combinations and stuff, as she is now beginning to question, why do they fight? Why is fighting their only option? Humans or Kagari, why does one side have to be annihilated over the other? And I like how she's beginning to question this, because I believe this is something that really does have to come into question, and might end up coming into play with the end of the series as a whole, with the human world and Kagari and Magano basically being two sides of the same coin, and one can't really exist without the other. So the ending might be both sides basically being in harmony with each other, and maybe being sealed off from each other as well. There's just no real telling how it could end. All we have to do is wait and see for the ride. But as Sakura is thinking all this, she does states basically it's like she's questioning Gabra why they have to do all this, why she learn more about him. As she just states farewell, and then gets one more vision of a child crying daddy, and that's the child in the back behind her. It's not a vision, it is an actual child in the rubble, because they all notice this child is somehow there. Now, whether this is an actual child or a vision from Gabra's memories, we have no way of knowing. But that moment of hesitation is all that took Gabra to grab Sakura's arm and then punch a hole right through her side, basically killing her. Sakura's whole side is literally torn apart, and there is a hole in it. And I like that now Chizuru is trying to remove the force field so she can fight herself, despite not being as strong as Sakura. Now, as she is basically standing there in disbelief and dying, she looks at Gabra's hand, and Gabra is still in tears and is suffering. She goes up, grabs Gabra's hand and says, "How come your punches are so filled with sadness, and that your mom is going to scold you again?" Much to the shock of everyone, and even Gabra, seemingly snapping him back to his senses, as we get a brief glimpse of what we presume to be Gabra's mother, if we do believe the whole Kigare negative emotion reincarnation thing, and Gabra begins to fall into the ground, writhing in agony from these memories. But Sakura's just stating that it's okay that you're a very sensitive kid, aren't you? And that she can't speak for others, but for Gabra to come to her. As she then embraces him like a mother would her child, as Gabra is just bawling his eyes out in pain, stating that he is sorry. Sakura also apologizes to Chizuru, and that she was asked to deliver the father's message to the child, that he wasn't able to protect him until the end. Be strong. That's the last thing that she basically says to Chizuru as we now get the panel of her dying. She is dead, with Gabra in her arms, as then the ground opens up, swallowing them both. With the very last fading moments of Sakura's consciousness being her pleading with Chizuru not to avenge her death, and that you can't erase hatred with hatred, and for that to be a promise. We then cut to a destroyed city on the island with a child walking around a bunch of dead and mutilated bodies, stating that she can't take it anymore, screaming into the heavens that she just can't take this anymore, when one of those monsters appears and tries to kill her and devour her. But Rokuro appears, saving her, saying he's sorry and he's busy at the moment, and asks her if she has the strength to run to safety. As she's just turning around in a dash with a complete utter look of despair and sadness, as he's blaming himself for all this and that he couldn't really do anything. Rokuro looks up in the air, stating, can you freaking cut it out already?" with him noticing Benio around him. Benio calls out to him, and now he's in a basically seemingly futile effort, asks that now they're together at the last minute, the Twin Star Exorcists can basically show them the greatest comeback in history. Benio looks at Rokuro and at everything around him, seeing the gravity of the situation and knowing what she has to do. Then flashing back to Sarada's comment before, that there's only one way for the two of them to get through this hellhole. She closes her eyes and says that's enough, and that he doesn't need, and that Rokuro doesn't need to fight anymore. It's hard to lose her hometown, but it would be far more unbearable for her to watch Rokuro die. Rokuro's trying to basically justify it, but Benio stops him, thanking Rokuro with one last kiss, as she thanks him for always supporting her and for coming to fight by her side whenever she needed him, and for falling in love with her, a Kagare. Basically thanks him one last time for making her so happy, as now she is chanting the spell to remove her human shield, her disguise, revealing as with Rokuro begging her not to do it, as Benio just states goodbye, have a happy human life, revealing her form as the Great Yin with tears in her eyes as the chapter ends. And man, those were an intense 2 chapters. Now I can see why these 2 chapters were brought out at the exact same time. Now, My thing is, are we going to be getting 2 more chapters next month too, or is it just going to be 1? Because I did not hear anything about there being 2 chapters this month. But these 2 chapters complemented each other so well that it makes a hell of a lot of sense for them to actually come out at the exact same time. Now, if the series is planning to end soon, and this is the final arc, it would make sense for the creator to bring out 2 chapters at the exact same time a month to do this. But then again, this was probably like something special, so there's no real way of telling for sure. But yeah, it's looking like with the end of this arc, we might be getting some theories on the confirmation that the Basra, in particular for the Kagare, are reincarnations of either actual people that died with immense negative emotions, or the actual manifestations of these negative emotions of humans from times long ago, or more recent times, and that's why they have these forms, their personalities, possibly being the opposite of what they were, using these negative emotions to fuel them. Again, still unclear of what the true origins of the Basra are, but that's all we can really speculate on. We also got another member of the 12 Guardians, Sakura, dying. So yeah, this arc is brutal, and as of right now, I believe only 11 of the 12 Guardians currently are fighting. I don't think any of the others are dead at the moment, so that's just freaking insane. This is a bloodbath, and it looks like almost every civilian on the island and base Exorcist has been killed in this large-scale attack. So and now Benio is seemingly sacrificing herself to go back into Magano, separating herself from Rokuro seemingly forever to stop everything from happening, to save the island. But what's going to happen next? Because now that Benio can essentially not go back to being human at the moment, for all we know there could be some ass pull or reason for Benio to become human again, but at the moment, this can't really go on. The only real thing that's going to happen now is Benio probably using her powers to get rid of all of the Kagare that are in Tsuchibikado Island, and now that she can't stay as a human and she has to be forced back into Magano, she'll take all the Basra with her and close up the gate. What she'll do after that is honestly anybody's guess. But she'd probably try something to try and keep Kagare from entering the human world, or at least Tsuchibikado Island in droves like that again. But yeah, that's honestly a pretty sad way. It basically kind of brought a tear to my eye. That was a pretty emotional goodbye. And yeah, I honestly enjoyed the series a lot. I'm glad I could talk about this series with you guys, and I cannot wait for next month's chapter. The action has been great, the stakes have never been higher, and now seemingly with the twin stars being separated for good at the moment, there's a number of ways this series can go. But with all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and opinions down below on what could happen next, and how this arc can play out, and how Benio leaving could actually end up being a good or bad thing. Let me know in the comments down below with your theories and thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. And with all that said and done, I hope you guys have an awesome day.